My name is Harmony Edosomwan, and welcome back to Cooking in Harmony. Well, today's a special episode. As you can see, I have this lovely outfit on, and it's because it's February and it's Black History Month. So happy Black History Month from me to you. Today, I want to explore Black History Month through food and my outfit and culture, and I just want to share this with all you guys. But this is what I have on here. It's called a daishiki, okay? I think it originated inside the 1970s, and it kind of was an outfit that African Americans kind of created to kind of feel connected to the motherland, Africa. Along in the 70s, there's a lot of 60s and 70s, there's a lot of other, movements coming about and being like, the Black arts movement, the kind of the tail end of the civil rights movement. We saw the Black Panther movement. But I want to take it kind of a little bit further back. I want to take it back to the 1920s, all right, where Negro History Week was first created. And that is essentially where Black History Month stems from. It was started by Carter G. Woodson, and he essentially wanted a way for African American history to be kind of shared inside schools. So he started Negro History Week. And from there, it became Black History Month. The reason why it's in February is because Carter G. Woodson wanted to actually celebrate Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass for their contributions to freeing Africans from slavery and so much more, right? So that's just a brief history lesson on what Black History Month is. That's why we are celebrating Black history. And today, we're gonna be cooking something very, very cool and a lot of fun. And it's called hot water cornbread, okay? Have y'all ever heard of hot water cornbread before? Very similar to, actually, no, it's actually not similar to what you may know as cornbread, but it's just a different way to make it. And it started in the South. But I wanted to share with you guys how to essentially make this beautiful dish. It's super simple, it literally only needs 3 ingredients, and that is cornmeal, which I just dumped right into my bowl here, some cornmeal, literally some salt, which we're gonna add in here as well. And I'm just using about 1 cup of salt, a little pinch, 1 cup of cornmeal, a little pinch of salt, all right? And we're gonna give that a good mix. And as the name kind of hints at, we're gonna be adding some hot water to this as well, all right? But I wanted to talk to y'all a little bit about the history of cornbread, how it kind of came to be, and why it's so important to African American culture, right? So cornmeal, cornbread, as we know it today, started inside the South, right? And so what I'm gonna do, y'all, is I'm gonna slowly just incorporate some hot water. You don't wanna dump it all in at the same time, because we're essentially gonna make this into like a little paste, okay? A little dough. But you want it to like have a nice pasty feel, okay? Doughy feel, I should more so say. We're gonna give that a nice mix. But the reason why hot water cornbread is so cool is because kind of like the inception of soul food, it was, it could stretch. And like I said, it's only using a few ingredients, all right? And so folks were able to essentially use this, cornmeal and make it into so many different things that we see today, right? But something that I found fascinating was that cornbread actually didn't start in African American culture. It actually started with indigenous folks, which I was like, whoa. So I have my handy dandy map here, and I wanted to kind of show y'all just all the different places that, from all the different places in the world that cornbread kind of shifted to, right? So as I share this little brief history, I'm gonna show you my handy dandy map here, right? So boom, right? We're looking at North America here. I have a little hot water cornbread dough here. So we're looking at North America here, right? So cornbread, like I said, started with indigenous folks, right? And so they used cornmeal to make various different things. They actually made cornbread too, but they kind of refer to as ash cakes, and it uses literally the same ingredients that we're using to make hot water cornbread today, which I found really fascinating. They literally use cornmeal, salt, some water, and they would put that over fire and make this bread-like substance. So boom, started from North America. From here, when Europeans came from Europe all the way to North America, we saw, within this, from them migrating to North America, they found cornbread from Native Americans, and they brought that back to Europe, okay? And from Europe, they started adding things like milk and sugar, kind of like, adding a little bit more spice and nutrients to the dish to kind of make it a little bit more, kind of a little bit more similar to what we see today. But from here, because of the transatlantic slave trade, it got brought from North America to Europe, back to North America, back to Africa, right? And we started seeing a lot of Africans use cornmeal and started adding it to already grain-like dishes like porridge and things like that. But from here, it went back to America, to the American South, and essentially through all that trade is how we come to the cornbread that we know of today, right? So in the American South, we saw folks were, adding milk and sugar to their cornbread. It was a little bit served more savory-like, and that's essentially how we saw it like that. But, in my business, Harmony's Kitchen, we make cornbread using honey and maple syrup, so it's a little bit more sweeter. And so the North is actually known for making a little bit more of a sweeter cornbread, whereas the South is more of like a savory cornbread. But if we go into some parts of, the Southwest, we see that folks add a little bit more like jalapenos and spice to it. So it's just really interesting how, through the different regions of our own country and the world, how cornbread kind of like has taken many different forms, right? And so, yeah, a little bit Black history there. But one more Black history note I want to share with y'all is that cornbread from the South came to the North through what we know today as the Great Migration, when Black folks were moving from the South up north to try to seek better opportunities for themselves, right? And with that, they brought cornbread. And it's through that trade, through that history, that businesses like mine today are able to make amazing renditions like maple glazed cornbread or honey glazed cornbread and all that jazz, right? Cool. So I wanted to share that history because it's Black History Month, and I think it's really important for us to, really know our history, especially, living in a time where it's, our history is trying to be erased or kind of silenced, right? So I thought it was important for y'all to know that. But hot water cornbread, this is a Southern dish. Very simple and easy way to make a different kind of cornbread. So I have my dough here. I literally just added a little bit of water at a time, some cornmeal, some salt. We're gonna add some oil to a pot now, because we're gonna pan fry these, okay? And it's so simple. It's like such an easy meal. And why I think, foods like this are just so important to Black American history is because, when we think about what soul food essentially was a food that was made through resiliency. African Americans were given the lesser parts of food, right? Foods that were undesirable. And they had to learn to make it stretch. They had to learn to make it good. And that's essentially what soul food is. Taking the lesser parts, of foods and turning into something beautiful, turning into something delicious and yummy. And when I see a food like hot water cornbread, this truly speaks to me as a food of survival and a food of, that resiliency that I'm talking of. All right, so while our oil kind of reaches its temp, all right, we are going to formulate some patties using this dough we created. So you see this dough here? It's gonna get nice and sticky, all right? It's gonna get nice and messy. So we're just gonna essentially formulate that into some patties. All right. Isn't that so cool, guys? Literally, being able to take such simple ingredients and making it into something so beautiful, I think is amazing. And I don't know, I'm just feeling very much, I don't know, I feel like this is like such like an ancestral thing. This is my first time making hot water cornbread, guys. I didn't grow up eating hot water cornbread, but I was able to talk to a few of my friends that did, and they were able to share with me, you know, just how simple it is to make this dish. All right? And what it meant to them growing up to eat this dish. Okay? All right, so that made us a little bit. Let me see if I can scoundrel up a little bit more for what we have here. I just find it so fascinating being able to like really turn such simple ingredients into something like this. I didn't even know that you can make like a dough with cornmeal like this. It's really cool. All right, so y'all, we're gonna wait for these to settle a bit and for our oil to get all hot and for me to clean my hands. But we're gonna come back and we're gonna fry these, plate them, and have a little taste test. All right, we'll be right back. Hey y'all, so we are back. So what have we went over so far? I love giving recaps when we're back, all right? So I taught y'all, you know, a little bit about the history of Black History Month, and why we celebrate it in February. We went over all the different places that cornbread has went and the influences it's picked up to kind of essentially become the cornbread that we know it as today. And we went over how to make the first part of hot water cornbread, which we have right here. We have our patties that's been sitting for some time and they're ready to be fried, all right? So today I'm using some sunflower oil and we're gonna be dropping these bad boys inside this oil, all right? So let's see how that goes. We're gonna grab one, all right? Gonna slide it inside. That's sounding cool already. All right, boom. Boom and boom. All right, so all of our patties are in, y'all. They are all doing their thing, frying. As you can see, boom. So we're just gonna let that fry and do its thing. We're gonna fry it on both sides so that it's a nice crispy golden brown, all right? I'm really excited to see what these taste like, to see what they're given. Yeah, and you can do, you know, you can make these savory, you can make them sweet, you can serve them with, you know, different kinds of foods like collard greens and rice and beans or jambalaya or whichever, you know. I think it's just a nice little bread kind of thing that you can add to your dishes. Yeah, so I'm excited. We're gonna see what it's doing. So far, let's see. I don't want to touch them too much, but I'm just so curious. Okay, it's doing its thing. It smells amazing. I'm just still kind of really shocked, guys, about how we were literally just able to add just some cornmeal, some salt, and some hot water, and boom, we're able to have this new kind, it's not a new dish, new to me, but have this creation of a dish, you know, together. And like I said, the simplicity of these ingredients and being able to put them together and formulate something as beautiful as this essentially shows us the heart of soul food, right? Making nothing out of something. Making something out of nothing. That's the great way. That's the right way to say it. Making something out of nothing, all right? And these ingredients essentially to me seem like nothing, you know? So I'm really excited to see how they turn out. So we're gonna let them fry. I think it needs maybe about 3 minutes on each side. We're gonna see how that goes, all right? See what it's given. Yum, yum, yum. Maybe a little less, let's see. Okay, we're gonna flip them. Okay, that was about a minute, and I think that's already nice and browned on one side, all right? Oh yeah, that's looking good. It kind of looks like tostones to me. I just went to Santiago's a few days ago. If y'all don't know, Santiago's is a Cuban restaurant inside of Burlington, so I'm thinking about their tostones right now. But this is what it kind of looks like that to me. Okay, so that was about 2 minutes. So we're gonna see what it does with another 2 minutes. Woo! I love trying recipes I've never tried before with you guys, and it's coming out pretty darn good. It's sometimes a little scary for me, but we let it happen, right? So I have this book here called Meals, Music, and Muses, Recipes from My African American Kitchen. This book is really awesome because it literally has so many different, recipes. And what I really appreciate about it is that it goes through, the different aspects of African American cultures, like aspects that are really important, like music and spirituality. And it kind of talks about how all that kind of ties together. And that's really important to me. Like, for instance, you see, there's a part that says spirituals. Like, that's really cool. And as someone who makes soul food, any soul food chef will tell you that, like, when we're cooking this food, it's really coming from the soul. And so I really appreciate this, And books like these, I think it's something that, in the very essence of why Black History Month was started, it's the fact that Carter G. Woodson and his organization wanted a way to keep Black history, particularly African American history, alive. And I think it's through storytelling, it's through recipes, recipe books, it's through food themselves, food that, folks seems to forget about, It's things like this that help to keep this rich culture alive, And being a soul food chef, I understand the role that I play in, essentially helping to keep this food form alive and well, Yeah, because if you're gonna be a soul food chef, you have to understand the history and the legacy that you are carrying with you, right? And I understand it. All right, so we are going to take out this hot water cornbread that we've been frying. Oh, actually, I have an easier spatula. Let me use this. Okay, so we're gonna take this out. Is that easier? Okay, yes, it is. Boom. Put this on some paper towels. All right. Guys, look at this. I'm so excited about this. Yay. Boom, y'all. Wow. We're gonna let that cool down and do its thing. I'm gonna turn off this skillet, let that start cooling down. But y'all, we have our hot water cornbread. That smells delicious. I wanna do a nice little crispy sound check. Let's see. That's crispy. Oh yeah. Uh-huh. Oh, that smells amazing. You know what this reminds me of? So, I'm Nigerian American, right? And in my culture, we have something called akara. Is that how we say it? But essentially it's moi moi fried. And if you don't know what moi moi essentially is black beans, right? But we let them soak and we peel off the beans. Like we peel off the black part and the skin. We blend it up with some tomatoes and peppers, and it makes like a dough-like substance like we did with this, and we fry it. And that's kind of like reminding me of this today. Like I said, you know, when we're looking at the history and how cornbread and foods and like, you know, culture essentially has, you know, traveled throughout Europe and Africa to the Americas and back and forth, you know, there's a huge influence, huge influences that I think, you know, just sticks with it, you know? And I think that's very cool. But that's what this reminds me of. I'm gonna show this to my mom because it smells the same too almost. I know y'all can't smell it at home, but but you can if you try this. This is very simple. So boom, guys, there we have it. We have our hot water cornbread right there. I'm gonna give it a taste just as is, and then I'm gonna add a little something on top of it to see what that's giving. But this is still gonna be really hot. See, it's smoking. Okay. Okay. I love that. That's so different. Oh my God. It still tastes like cornbread, but fried. Okay. I can see this with like over a nice like bowl of collard greens, you know what I'm saying? But I wanted to add this to it, guys. So what we have here is some caviar, okay? This way, yeah. I wanted to add some caviar because I think it's so important. Like I said, as a modern day soul food chef, I essentially feel like it's part of my job to continue this tradition of soul food, but we're essentially continuing the tradition so that it can lead its way to the future, right? And when we think about Black culture in the future, that's essentially Afrofuturism, right? That's essentially Afrofuturism. And when I look at, you know, when I think of the future, when I think about the future and Black people in the future, when I think about Afrofuturism food, this is what comes to mind. Caviar on hot water cornbread, all right? Yeah, the reason why I wanted to do this today is because hot water cornbread isn't a luxurious food, right? It has very simple ingredients. It's a food that was born from survival. That's what soul food is. It's a food of resilience. And being able to add a luxurious food on top of a food that is not luxurious at all kind of, you know, remixes that history. It considers that history and brings it to the future, right? And that's essentially what I wanted to do here today with this hot water cornbread. I wanted to bring it to the future. I wanted to take this survival food and make it luxurious, all right? Okay. That's the flavor right there, y'all. Oh my goodness. When we say that we are our ancestors' wildest dreams, this is what I think about. These are the type of foods that I think about. Caviar on hot water cornbread, all right? So, y'all, this was a very fun episode. This is very delicious. Oh, and if you're curious about where to get some caviar, you know, Shaw's sells this for like $12.99. So go to Shaw's and get you some caviar, all right? Thank y'all so much for joining me today. We made some delicious caviar-topped hot water cornbread. Is it hot water cornbread topped with caviar? This is very delicious. Thank you so much for joining me. Happy Black History Month, and see you next time on Cooking in Harmony. Bye.